Admiral Tae-ho stood on the bridge of the battleship Soul's Pride, watching the stars through the massive viewport that stretched across the command deck. The joint human-Volani defense fleet hung in space around Kepler Station, like a protective wall of metal and energy. 50 human ships and 30 Volani vessels worked together as one force, their crews sharing duties and knowledge as they had for the past 3 years. Captain So-min approached him with a datapad in her hands, her face showing the calm focus that made her such a valuable tactical officer. She had been working with the Volani tactical team since dawn, planning new defensive formations that combined human firepower with Volani shield technology. The partnership had made both species stronger. "The morning patrol reports are clean," So-min said, handing him the pad. "No unusual activity in any sector. The Volani ships report their systems are running at peak efficiency." Tae-ho nodded and took the report. The relationship between humans and Volani had been one of the few bright spots in humanity's short time among the galactic community. While other alien species looked at humans with suspicion or outright hostility, the Volani had welcomed them with open arms. They were a peaceful people who loved art and music, much like many humans did. Their cities were filled with concert halls and galleries where both species shared their cultures. The communication array suddenly came alive with urgent beeping sounds. Lieutenant Dong-soo at the communication station turned toward the Admiral with worry written across his young face. "Sir, we're receiving an emergency transmission from the Volani homeworld," Dong-soo said. "The signal is weak and breaking up, but they're requesting immediate assistance." Tae-ho moved quickly to the communication station. "Put it through to the main screen." The holographic display flickered to life, showing the face of Volani Commander Wu Jin. His usually calm blue features were twisted with panic, and his large dark eyes held a fear that Tae-ho had never seen before. Behind him, the bridge of his ship was filled with smoke and the red glow of emergency lighting. "Admiral Tae-ho," Wu Jin said, his voice cutting in and out through the static. "Our homeworld is under attack. The Galactic Council fleet appeared without warning and began orbital bombardment 20 minutes ago. They are targeting our cities, our schools, our cultural centers. This is not a military action. This is genocide." The words hit the bridge like a physical blow. So-min gripped the rail beside her, her knuckles turning white. The other officers stopped their work and stared at the screen in shock. "Commander, clarify your last statement," Tae-ho said, though his heart was already sinking. "The Galactic Council is attacking civilian targets?" "Yes, Admiral. They sent a message before the attack began. They declared us a contaminated species because of our alliance with humanity. They said any race that stands with the aggressive newcomers from Sol will be cleansed from the galaxy." The transmission flickered and showed images from the planet's surface. Volani cities that had stood for thousands of years were burning. Concert halls where human and Volani musicians had played together were nothing but rubble. Schools where Volani children had learned about human history alongside their own were exploding under energy weapons. Tae-ho watched families running through streets as buildings collapsed around them. He saw Volani artists trying to save their paintings from museums that were being systematically destroyed. The Galactic Council was not just killing the Volani people, they were erasing their entire culture. "How many ships do they have?" So-min asked, her tactical mind already working on possibilities. "Over 200 vessels," Wu Jin replied, "led by the Hegemony Enforcement Fleet. They are using weapons banned by every galactic treaty. They are cracking the planet's crust in some areas." The display showed massive canyons opening up in what had been peaceful farmland. Entire mountain ranges were being leveled by weapons that could reshape continents. This was not warfare. This was extermination. "We are launching every ship we have to help you," Tae-ho said. "Hold your position, and we will be there in 4 hours. Wu Jin's expression became sad and knowing. "No, my friend. By the time you arrive, there will be nothing left to save. The Volani fleet has already been destroyed. My ship is the last one still broadcasting. We are sending you our cultural archives now. Please remember us through our songs." The transmission cut to show recordings from the planet. Volani families gathered in their homes, singing their traditional songs as the bombs fell around them. Parents held their children and sang lullabies while their world died. Teachers in schools led their students in ancient hymns as the buildings burned. Captain So-min turned away from the screen, tears running down her face. Around the bridge, human officers watched in silence as an entire civilization was being murdered. They all knew that this was happening because the Vallani had chosen to be friends with humanity. "Admiral," Wu Jin's voice came through the static. "One last time. Tell your people that we never regretted our friendship. The 3 years we spent learning from each other were the brightest in our history. We die knowing that somewhere in the galaxy, humans will sing our songs and remember our stories." The screen went dark. Lieutenant Dong-Su tried to re-establish contact, but there was only silence from the Vallani homeworld. After a few minutes, long-range sensors confirmed what they all already knew. The planet's energy signature was fading. The bombardment was complete. Tae-ho stood in the silence of his bridge and felt something cold settle in his chest. The Galactic Council had not just killed his allies. They had sent a message to every species in the galaxy. Anyone who stood with humanity would die. "Sir," So-min said quietly, "we're receiving a transmission from the Galactic Council." "Put it through." The screen lit up again, this time showing the proud face of Hegemon Vorthak, the leader of the enforcement fleet. His species looked like upright lizards with jeweled scales and cold yellow eyes. He wore the ceremonial robes of a council executor. "Attention, human vessels," Vorthak said in his harsh voice. "You have witnessed the price of contamination. The Vallani chose to ally themselves with your aggressive species and have paid the ultimate price. This is a warning to all races in the galaxy. Any species that allies with humanity will face the same fate." Tae-ho stepped forward. "You murdered innocent civilians, children, artists, teachers. This was genocide." "This was cleansing," Vorthak replied without emotion. "The Vallani had become infected by human violence and ambition. We removed a cancer before it could spread. Consider this a lesson, Admiral. Humanity stands alone in the galaxy, and anyone who chooses to stand with you will share the Vallani fate." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in dead silence. Tae-ho looked out at the Vallani ships that still floated near his fleet. They were empty now, their crews all dead, their people extinct. The bright yellow and blue hulls that had once been filled with music and laughter were now tombs. "Orders, sir?" So-min asked. Tae-ho continued staring at the dead ships. His mind was already working, already planning. The Galactic Council thought they had sent a message about the price of standing with humanity. They had no idea what message they had actually sent. "Signal the fleet," he said quietly. "We return to Earth immediately, and send a message to Luna Command. Tell them we need to talk." Dr. Haewon stood in the memorial garden on Luna, holding a small crystal device that glowed with soft blue light. The device contained the last cultural archives that Commander Wu Jin had transmitted before his death. Inside this tiny crystal were thousands of years of Vallani art, music, poetry, and history. It was all that remained of an entire civilization. Around her, hundreds of humans had gathered for the memorial service. They came from Earth, from Mars, from the asteroid colonies, and from distant outposts on the edge of human space. Many of them had worked with Vallani partners on research projects, trade missions, or cultural exchanges. Others had never met a Vallani but came anyway because they understood what had been lost. Haewon had spent the last 5 years working closely with Vallani scientists. She had learned their language, studied their biology, and become friends with researchers who shared her passion for discovering new forms of life. Dr. Kel-Shan had been her closest colleague, a brilliant Vallani botanist who had helped her develop new techniques for growing food in hostile environments. His children had called her Aunt Haewon and had sent her drawings of flowers that existed only on their homeworld. Now Kel-Shan was dead. His children were dead. The flowers they had drawn no longer existed anywhere in the universe except in the pictures they had sent her. "Today we remember the Vallani people," Haewon said, her voice carrying across the garden through speakers. "They were scientists and artists, teachers and students, parents and children. They were our friends, our colleagues, our partners in building a better galaxy. They died because they chose to stand with us." She activated the crystal device. Vallani music began to play, flowing through the garden like water. It was complex and beautiful. with harmonies that seemed to touch something deep in the human soul. The music had been composed by a Vallani artist named Thelnara, just 2 weeks before the attack. It was called Songs for Tomorrow, and it had been written to celebrate the friendship between humans and Vallani. As the music played, many of the humans in the garden began to cry. They cried for friends they would never see again. They cried for art that would never be created. They cried for children who would never grow up to compose new songs or paint new pictures. On Earth, similar memorial services were being held in every major city. The human government had declared a week of mourning for the Vallani people. Flags flew at half-mast. Museums displayed Vallani art alongside human works. Concert halls played Vallani music to audiences who sat in respectful silence. Fleet Admiral Kyung-soo watched the memorial service through a video feed from his office in Luna Command. He was a large man with gray hair and scars on his hands from his early days as a ship engineer. He had spent 40 years in the human military, fighting pirates and defending colonies from attack. He had never seen anything like what had happened to the Vallani. The door to his office opened, and Intelligence Officer Mi-young entered. She was young for her position, only 32, but she had a mind like a computer and could analyze information faster than most artificial intelligence systems. Her face was pale, and her eyes were red from lack of sleep. "Admiral," she said, placing a thick folder on his desk. "I've finished the analysis of the Vallani attack. It's worse than we thought." Kyung-soo opened the folder and began reading. The first page showed orbital bombardment patterns. The Galactic Council had not simply destroyed military targets or even cities at random. They had specifically targeted schools, hospitals, museums, and cultural centers. They had used weapons designed to kill slowly and painfully. They wanted them to suffer, Mi-young said. This wasn't a quick military strike. The bombardment lasted for 6 hours. They could have destroyed the planet in minutes with the weapons they had, but they chose to make it last. They wanted the Vallani to know they were going to die. The Admiral turned the page and saw biological analysis reports. The Council had used weapons that targeted Vallani DNA specifically. Even if some Vallani had escaped the planet, the weapons would have made sure they died slowly from radiation poisoning designed for their species. "How many survived?" Kyung-soo asked. "None," Mi-young replied. "Not on the homeworld. We've checked every Vallani colony, every outpost, every ship. The Council was thorough. They hunted down every Vallani in the galaxy. The species is extinct." Kyung-soo set the folder down and rubbed his eyes. He had fought in wars before, but this was not war. This was something darker and more evil than anything he had experienced. "There's more," Mi-young said. "Our intelligence networks have identified the Council's next targets. 3 species have shown sympathy toward humanity in recent months. The Cathara, who voted against sanctions on human trade. The Norvani, who allowed human refugees to settle on their border worlds. And the Zephyrians, who have been sharing scientific data with our research stations. They're going to kill them too." "Yes, sir. Our sources indicate the Council is already moving enforcement fleets toward their homeworlds. They plan to eliminate all 3 species within the next month." The Admiral stood and walked to his window, looking out at Earth, hanging in space like a blue and white jewel. Somewhere down there, children were going to school and learning about the galaxy. They were learning that there were many different kinds of intelligent life among the stars, and that humans could be friends with some of them. Soon those children would learn that being friends with humans was a death sentence. A knock on the door interrupted his thoughts. "Come in." Ji-hoon entered the office. He was young, barely 25, and worked as a diplomatic attaché. He had grown up on Earth during the early years of human contact with alien species. Some of his classmates in school had been Vallani, exchange students. He had learned to speak their language and had planned to become an ambassador. "Admiral," Ji-hoon said, "I want to volunteer for a reconnaissance mission." "What kind of mission?" "Someone needs to go into Council space and gather intelligence on their next attacks. Someone needs to warn the Cathara and the others. I speak several alien languages, and I know how to blend in on Council worlds." Mi-young shook her head. "It's too dangerous. If they catch you, they'll torture you for information and then kill you slowly." "Then I won't get caught," Ji-hoon said. "Sir, I grew up with Vallani kids. They taught me their games and their songs. They invited me to their homes and their families treated me like I was their own child. Those families are dead now because they were friends with humans. The young man's voice became stronger. I can't bring back the Volani, but maybe I can. Save the Cathara. Maybe I can save the Norvani and the Zephyrians. Maybe I can make sure that being friends with humans doesn't have to mean death. Kyung-soo studied the young diplomat. Ji-hoon had always been idealistic, but there was something different in his eyes now. The genocide of the Volani had changed him, just as it had changed all of them. You understand that this would be a one-way mission, the Admiral said. We couldn't extract you if things went wrong. I understand, sir. And you understand that the information you gather might not be enough to save anyone. I understand that too, sir. But I have to try. Mi-young looked at both men. If we're going to do this, we need to do it right. Ji-hoon will need new identity, documents, a cover story, and a way to transmit information back to us without being detected. Can you arrange that? Kyung-soo asked. Yes, sir, but it will take time. Maybe 2 weeks to set everything up properly. The Admiral nodded. Do it. And Mi-young, I want you to start gathering every piece of information we have about Galactic Council military capabilities, ship designs, weapon systems, fleet positions, everything. Sir, are we planning a rescue mission for the other species? Kyung-soo looked back out at Earth. I don't know what we're planning yet, but I know that. We can't let this stand. The Council thinks they've sent us a message about the price of friendship with humanity. Maybe it's time we sent them a message back. As the memorial service continued on the lunar surface below, the 3 humans in the office began planning humanity's response to genocide. They didn't know yet what form that response would take, but they all understood that something had changed forever. The Volani had died for being friends with humans, and that was a debt that demanded payment. General Sang-ho floated in zero gravity inside the massive construction bay, hidden deep in the Kuiper Belt, watching as thousands of human workers assembled the largest warship ever built. The ship stretched for nearly 2 kilometers and bristled, with weapon systems that had never been tested in combat. Its hull was made from materials that had been developed in secret laboratories for the past decade, materials that could absorb energy weapons and redirect kinetic impacts. This was the flagship of Project Retribution, though the workers building it knew it only as ship classification Alpha 1. The project had been classified at the highest levels of human government, and even most military officers didn't know it existed. Only a select few knew that humanity had been preparing for war since the day they first made contact with the Galactic Council. General, came a voice through his communication implant. Chief Engineer Ye Jin requests your presence in Laboratory 7. Sang-ho pushed off from the observation platform and glided through the construction bay toward the laboratory section. He had been overseeing Project Retribution for 3 years, ever since intelligence reports suggested that the Galactic Council viewed humanity as a threat. The genocide of the Volani had simply confirmed what they already suspected. The Galactic Council had made one critical error in their assessment of human capabilities. They believed that humanity was a young species with primitive technology, barely capable of interstellar travel. They had seen human ships and assumed they represented the peak of human engineering. They had no idea that those ships were deliberately designed to appear less advanced than they actually were. Laboratory 7 was a restricted area where only 12 humans had access. Ye-jin stood beside a device that looked like a small metal sphere, no larger than a basketball. She was a brilliant engineer who had spent the last 5 years developing weapons that could end civilizations. Her work was so classified that her own family believed she was designing new mining equipment for asteroid colonies. General, the quantum disruptor is ready for final testing, Ye-jin said. Would you like to observe? Sang-ho nodded. The quantum disruptor was perhaps the most terrible weapon humanity had ever created. It worked by breaking the bonds between atoms, causing matter to simply cease to exist. A single device the size of a basketball could destroy a ship the size of a city. Ye-jin activated a holographic display showing a target asteroid about 50 kilometers away. The asteroid was roughly the same size and composition as a Galactic Council battleship. She placed her hand on a control panel and looked at the general. Firing in 3, 2, 1. The quantum disruptor activated with a sound like singing crystal. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the asteroid simply vanished. 1 second it was there, a massive chunk of rock and metal floating in space. The next second there was empty vacuum where it had been. Molecular bonds disrupted across the entire target, Yejin reported. Complete disintegration achieved. No debris, no radiation, no energy release. The target material has been converted back to its component atoms. Sang-Ho stared at the empty space where the asteroid had been. How many of these devices can we produce? With current manufacturing capacity, about 50 per month. But that number will increase as we bring more automated factories online. And the delivery system? We've developed 2 methods. The disruptors can be fired from long range using our new torpedo systems, or they can be delivered by our ghost ships. The ghost ships were another piece of technology that the Galactic Council knew nothing about. Human scientists had discovered how to manipulate the quantum fields that separated normal space from what they called shadow space. Ships equipped with quantum phase generators could slip into shadow space, becoming invisible and intangible to sensors and weapons in normal space. A ghost ship could phase through enemy shields, appear inside an enemy vessel, deploy weapons, and phase back out before the enemy even knew they were under attack. The Galactic Council had no defense against weapons they couldn't detect. How many ghost ships are ready? Sang-Ho asked. 37 are currently operational, with 20 more completing their trials this week. Each ship carries a crew of 12 and can deploy up to 6 quantum disruptors before needing to resupply. The general made notes on his personal data pad. The mathematics of war were simple once you had overwhelming technological superiority. The Galactic Council fleet consisted of approximately 8,000 ships spread across their territory. Humanity was building a force of 300 vessels, each one capable of destroying dozens of Council ships. What about the kinetic bombardment platforms? He asked. All 50 platforms are operational and have been deployed to predetermined positions around Council space. Each platform carries 12 tungsten rods, each rod weighing 10 tons and capable of achieving 90% light speed before impact. Sang-Ho nodded. The kinetic bombardment platforms were perhaps the simplest of humanity's new weapons, but also among the most devastating. A 10-ton tungsten rod moving at 90% of light speed carried enough energy to crack the crust of a planet. The platforms had been positioned in deep space around every major Council world, hidden and waiting for the order to fire. Sir, Yejin said, there's something else. Nam Wu has returned from his intelligence mission. Nam Wu had been operating in Council space for 8 months, gathering information about their military capabilities and political structure. He was one of humanity's best intelligence officers, capable of passing as a member of several alien species using advanced genetic modifications and cybernetic implants. They found Nam Wu in the debriefing room, looking tired but satisfied. His appearance had been altered to match that of a hegemony citizen, complete with scaled skin and yellow eyes. The modifications would be reversed over the next few weeks, but for now he looked more alien than human. General, Nam Wu said, I have good news and bad news. The bad news is that the Council is planning to eliminate all species that have shown any sympathy toward humanity. They call it the Purification Campaign, and it's scheduled to begin in 6 weeks. How many species? 17. They plan to commit genocide against 17 different civilizations. Billions of innocent beings will die. Sang-Ho felt cold anger settle in his chest. The Villani had been just the beginning. The Council intended to murder anyone who might potentially become humanity's ally. What's the good news? Nam Wu smiled, an expression that looked strange on his modified alien features. The good news is that they have no idea what's coming. They still think humans are primitive. They believe our ships are slow and our weapons are weak. They're so arrogant that they've never bothered to do proper intelligence gathering on human capabilities. What about their defenses? Minimal. They've been the dominant power in the galaxy for so long that they've become complacent. Most of their military bases have outdated shield systems and limited sensor coverage. They rely on their reputation for intimidation rather than actual defensive preparations. Nam Wu activated a holographic display showing the layout of Council space. Red dots marked military installations, blue dots marked civilian populations, and yellow dots marked government centers. I've identified all their critical targets, he said. Command centers, shipyards, weapons manufacturing facilities, and communication hubs. If we hit all of these targets simultaneously, we can cripple their entire military structure in a matter of hours. Sang-Ho studied the display. There were 1,147 critical targets spread across 47 star systems. It would require precise coordination and flawless execution, but it was possible. How long do we have before the purification campaign begins? 6 weeks, 2 days. Then we need to be ready in 5 weeks. Ye-Jin, can you accelerate production? Schedules? Yes, sir. We'll need to bring workers in around the clock, but we can have all systems ready in 4 weeks. Sang-Ho turned to Nam-Wu. I need you to get a message to the 17 targeted species. Don't tell them about our plans, but find a way to suggest that they should move their populations away from major cities and military installations. That's going to be difficult without revealing our intelligence sources. Then be creative. Start rumors about natural disasters or suggest military exercises that require civilian evacuations. Use whatever methods you think will work, but get those people out of harm's way. As the 3 humans planned humanity's first galactic war, none of them spoke about the moral implications of what they were doing. They were planning to destroy an entire interstellar civilization, to commit genocide on a scale that would reshape the galaxy. But after watching the Vallani die, after learning about the planned murder of 17 more species, they felt no doubt about the righteousness of their cause. The Galactic Council had chosen to make friendship with humanity a death sentence. Soon, they would learn that genocide against humanity's friends carried an even steeper price. In hidden bases throughout human space, workers labored around the clock to build the fleet that would bring judgment to the stars. They built ships that could phase between dimensions, weapons that could unmake matter at the quantum level, and platforms that could crack planets with kinetic energy. Admiral Taeho stood on the bridge of the new flagship Vallani's Vengeance, watching as reality twisted around them during the final moments of hyperspace transit. In exactly 37 seconds, the human fleet would emerge from hyperspace simultaneously, across 47 star systems, beginning the largest military operation in galactic history. Around him, his crew worked with quiet efficiency, their faces showing the calm determination that had taken 2 years to build. All ships report ready status, Captain So-Min announced from her position at the tactical station. Ghost ship squadrons are standing by for phase transition. Kinetic platforms confirm targeting solutions locked. The ship shuddered slightly as they dropped out of hyperspace above the Galactic Council's capital world. Through the viewport, Taeho could see the massive orbital stations that surrounded the planet like a crown of metal and energy. Thousands of council ships moved in patrol patterns around the stations, their hulls gleaming with the arrogance of a species that had never faced a real challenge. Signal from Fleet Command, So-Min reported. All attack groups have arrived on target. Operation Judgment is authorized to commence. Taeho opened a communication channel to the council fleet. As expected, Hegemon Vorthak's face appeared on the screen, his scaled features showing surprise and contempt in equal measure. Human vessels, Vorthak said, his voice dripping with disdain. You are in violation of Galactic Council space. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. Hegemon Vorthak, Taeho replied calmly. I am Admiral Taeho of the human fleet. We are here to discuss the murder of the Vallani people and your planned genocide of 17 other species. Vorthak's laugh was like the sound of breaking glass. Discuss? You bring a handful of primitive ships to our capital and speak of discussion? Your entire fleet could be destroyed by a single council battle group? Perhaps, Taeho said. But before we test that theory, I want you to understand something. 2 years ago, you murdered our friends. You killed them slowly and painfully to send us a message. Today, we're here to send you a message in return. And what message is that, human? That genocide has consequences. Taeho cut the communication and turned to So-Min. Signal all units. Begin the reckoning. Across the galaxy, 300 human ships began the most precise military operation ever attempted. In the Hegemony home system, Commander Wubin activated the quantum phase generator on his ghost ship Silent Thunder. Reality blurred around his vessel as it slipped into shadow space, becoming invisible to every sensor and weapon in the Council. Fleet Wubin had volunteered for this mission specifically. His brother had been serving on a human research station when Vallani refugees arrived after escaping a smaller council attack 6 months before the genocide. Wu Bin had watched his brother comfort Volani children who had lost their parents, had seen him help Volani artists preserve their cultural works on digital storage devices. When the main attack came, those refugees had died along with all the others. Silent thunder phased back into normal space inside the shield perimeter of the largest council battle station. The station's crew had no time to react as Wu Bin deployed. 3 quantum disruptors in strategic locations throughout the massive structure. The disruptors activated simultaneously, and the battle station simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there, a fortress of metal and energy housing 50,000 council troops. The next moment there was empty space. Similar scenes played out across council space as ghost ships materialized inside enemy vessels and installations, deployed their weapons, and vanished again before the enemy could respond. Council ships that had been patrolling confidently moments before suddenly found themselves with holes in their hulls where vital systems had been unmade at the molecular level. "Enemy fleet is responding," So Min reported. "They're targeting our main ships with their primary weapons." Taeho watched as energy beams and kinetic projectiles struck the human fleet. The weapons that had been used to destroy the Volani homeworld flashed across space toward human ships, carrying enough power to vaporize mountains. The weapon struck human shields and simply disappeared. "Hull integrity at 100%, reported the damage control officer. "Energy absorption systems operating at 12% capacity." The human ships had been designed specifically to fight the Galactic Council. Their hulls were made from metamaterials that could absorb and redirect energy weapons. Their shields used principles of physics that the Council had never discovered. What looked like a devastating attack to the Council was merely a light breeze to human engineering. "Return fire," Taeho ordered. "Conventional weapons only for now." The human fleet opened fire with kinetic cannons and plasma beams, weapons that the Council could understand and recognize. Even these conventional weapons were far more advanced than anything the Council possessed, but they were familiar enough that the enemy could track their source and target. Council ships began exploding as human kinetic rounds punched through, their shields and hulls like paper. Plasma beams cut through armor that had been considered impenetrable for centuries. In the first 5 minutes of combat, the human fleet destroyed over 200 Council vessels without taking any damage. In return, "Sir," So Min said, "the enemy is trying to retreat. They're calling for reinforcements from other systems." "Jam their communications," Taeho ordered, "and activate the kinetic bombardment platforms. High above the Council capital world, hidden, platforms that had been positioned in deep space for months received their activation codes. Tungsten rods the size of telephone poles began accelerating toward the planet's surface, reaching incredible speeds as they fell through the atmosphere. The rods struck the planet's major military installations with the force of nuclear weapons. Command bunkers that had been built to survive planetary bombardment were simply erased as the kinetic projectiles converted their momentum into pure destruction. In seconds, the Council's entire military command structure was eliminated. Lieutenant Bo Young led her Marine boarding party through the shattered hull of a Council command ship, their powered armor allowing them to move through the wreckage with deadly efficiency. Her team had trained for 2 years for this moment, learning to fight in zero gravity against alien opponents who had never faced human combat tactics. The Council crew they encountered had been trained to fight against enemies who followed galactic conventions of warfare. They expected boarding parties to announce themselves, to follow rules about civilian protection, to show mercy to surrendering opponents. Bo Young's team followed no such conventions. They moved through the ship like ghosts, eliminating any Council personnel they encountered with swift, silent efficiency. These were the same species that had ordered the murder of Volani children. As far as Bo Young was concerned, they deserved. "No mercy. Command ship secured," she reported. "Enemy command staff eliminated. Recovering data cores now." Across the galaxy, similar boarding actions were taking place as human Marines captured vital intelligence from Council vessels. They took no prisoners. They showed no mercy. The Council had declared that befriending humanity was a crime punishable by extinction. Today, humanity was teaching them that committing genocide was also a crime with a price. "Admiral," So Min reported, "we're receiving surrender requests from multiple Council fleets. They're offering to negotiate." Taeho studied the tactical display. In less than an hour, human forces had destroyed or disabled over 3,000 Council ships. Military installations across Council space were burning ruins. The command structure that had ruled the galaxy for centuries was collapsing in real time. "Open a channel to all Council frequencies," he ordered. When the channel opened, Tejo's voice was broadcast to every Council ship, every space station, every planetary government, across their territory. "This is Admiral Tejo of the human fleet," he said. 47 minutes ago, you possessed the largest military force in the galaxy. Today, that force no longer exists. Your ships are destroyed. Your bases are burning. Your command structure is eliminated." He paused, letting the reality of their situation sink in. 2 years ago, you committed genocide against the Vellani people because they chose to be our friends. You planned to murder 17 other species for the same crime. You believed that friendship with humanity carried a death sentence. Today, you have learned that genocide against humanity's friends carries a much steeper price. On his tactical display, Tejo could see the remnants of the Council fleet, scattered and broken across dozens of star systems. These were the ships and crews that had murdered billions of innocent Vellani. They had expected an easy victory against primitive humans. Instead, they had encountered technology beyond their understanding and tactics beyond their imagination. "The Galactic Council is hereby dissolved," Tejo announced. "Any attempt to reconstitute your government or rebuild your military will result in the complete sterilization of your homeworlds. The age of Council domination is over." As human ships secured the remaining Council installations, Tejo allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. The Vellani had been avenged. The planned genocide of 17 species had been prevented. The galaxy's greatest threat to peaceful coexistence had been eliminated. But even as he watched the enemy surrender, Admiral Tejo walked through the ruins of the Galactic Council chambers, his boots crunching on broken crystal and twisted metal. The massive hall that had once housed the representatives of over 300 species was now a blackened shell, its walls scarred by kinetic strikes and its ceremonial artifacts reduced to rubble. Smoke still rose from the wreckage where the Council's ruling podium had stood for over 1,000 years. Dr. Hei-Wan walked beside him, carrying the small crystal device that contained the last remnants of Vellani culture. The device glowed softly, in the dim light filtering through the shattered dome above them, its blue radiance a gentle reminder of what had been lost and what they were fighting to preserve. "Are you ready?" Tejo asked her. Hei-Wan nodded, her face showing the same mixture of sadness and determination that had driven humanity for the past 2 years. She activated a portable communication array that would broadcast their message to every inhabited world in the galaxy. For the first time in galactic history, humans would speak directly to all the civilized species of the cosmos. The array came online with a soft chime, indicating that their signal was being received on billions of worlds across thousands of star systems. In homes and government buildings, in schools and workplaces, intelligent beings throughout the galaxy would hear humanity's judgment on the age that was ending. "Citizens of the galaxy," Tejo began, his voice echoing through the ruined chamber and across the stars. "I am Admiral Tejo of the human fleet. I stand in the ruins of the Galactic Council chambers to deliver humanity's verdict on the crimes that have been committed in your name." He gestured to the destruction around him. For over 1,000 years, this chamber was the seat of galactic civilization. Representatives of hundreds of species gathered here to discuss trade, to resolve disputes, and to maintain peace among the stars. But 3 years ago, this chamber became something else. It became the headquarters of genocide. Captain Somin stood at a portable tactical station nearby, monitoring communications from across the galaxy. Reports were flowing in from human forces throughout former Council space. The occupation was proceeding smoothly, with minimal resistance from civilian populations. Most species seemed relieved rather than upset by the Council's destruction. "The Galactic Council chose to respond to humanity's arrival in this galaxy with fear and hatred," Tejo continued. "They could not tolerate the idea that some species might choose to befriend us rather than fear us. So they decided to murder anyone who showed us kindness." He held up a data pad displaying images from the Vellani genocide. The pictures showed burning cities, fleeing families, and the orbital bombardment that had extinguished an entire civilization in a matter of hours. The Vellani people died because they chose to be our friends. They were scientists and artists, teachers and children. They had never harmed anyone. Their only crime was showing humanity friendship and respect. For this, the Council ordered their complete extermination. Across the galaxy, billions of beings watched these images with growing horror. Many species had suspected that the official reports about the Villani were incomplete, but seeing the true scope of the genocide for the first time was shocking even to those who had opposed the Council. General Sang-Ho's voice came through Taeho's communication implant. Admiral, we've completed the final security sweeps. All Council military assets have been neutralized. Civilian governments on member worlds are requesting guidance on establishing new leadership structures. Understood, General. Begin implementing the transition protocols. Taeho turned back to the broadcast. The Council did not stop with the Villani. Intelligence gathered during our operation has revealed plans for the systematic genocide of 17 additional species. Billions more. Innocent beings were scheduled to die for the crime of showing sympathy toward humanity. Dr. Hae-Won stepped forward, still holding the Villani cultural crystal. These plans will never be carried out. The Galactic Council no longer exists. Its fleet has been destroyed, its leadership eliminated, and its authority dissolved. But we are not here simply to destroy, we are here to build something better. She activated the crystal device, and Villani music began to play through the communication array. The haunting melodies of a dead civilization flowed across the galaxy, reaching ears that had never heard such sounds before. The music spoke of loss and hope, of dreams cut short and beauty that would never fade. This is all that remains of the Villani people, Hae-Won said as the music continued. Their songs, their stories, their art. We have preserved these things because we believe that every civilization has value, that every species deserves to live and grow and create. The Council believed in domination through fear. We believe in cooperation through respect. Yuri appeared at the edge of the ruined chamber, leading a team of engineers who were beginning the process of converting the space into something new. The plans called for a memorial garden where representatives of all species could gather to remember the victims of genocide and work together to prevent such tragedies in the future. The human fleet will remain in this region to ensure stability during the transition period, Taeho announced. But we will not rule you. We will not replace the Council's tyranny with our own. Instead, we invite all peaceful species to join us in creating a new form of galactic governance based on mutual respect and voluntary cooperation. Commander Namwoo approached with a report on the 17 species that had been targeted for genocide. Admiral, we've successfully evacuated the populations we identified as being at risk. The Kethera are requesting a formal alliance with humanity. The Norvani want to establish joint research programs. The Zephyrians are offering to share their star charts of unexplored regions. Tell them we'll be happy to discuss all of those. Proposals once the immediate crisis is resolved, Taeho replied. But make it clear that any alliances will be partnerships between equals, not protection arrangements. The Admiral returned his attention to the broadcast. To those species who participated in or supported the Council's policies of genocide, understand this: those days are over. Any government that chooses the path of genocide will face the same fate as the Council. Humanity will not tolerate the systematic murder of innocent beings. He paused, letting the weight of that promise settle across the galaxy. But to those species who choose the path of peace, who wish to explore and grow and learn alongside their neighbors, humanity offers friendship. We offer our knowledge, our protection, and our partnership in building a galaxy where no one has to die for the crime of showing kindness to strangers. Commander Wubin's voice came through the communication system from orbit. Admiral, the Memorial Construction Fleet has arrived. They're requesting permission to begin work on the Villani Memorial. Permission granted. Begin construction immediately. The memorial would be humanity's gift to the galaxy, a massive crystalline structure that would orbit the dead Villani homeworld and broadcast their music across the cosmos. It would serve as both a tribute to a lost civilization and a warning about the price of genocide. As the broadcast continued, reports flowed in from across human space. The 17 species targeted for genocide were safe. Their governments were already requesting meetings to discuss formal alliances with humanity. Other species that had remained neutral during the Council era were reaching out to establish diplomatic contact. The age of fear is over, Taeho announced. The age of cooperation begins today. Humanity does not seek to rule the galaxy. We seek to explore it, to learn from it, and to help all peaceful species achieve their potential. Dr. Haywan stepped forward again. In memory of the Velani people, and in hope for all the children yet to be born among the stars, we dedicate ourselves to building a galaxy where friendship is celebrated, not punished, where diversity is treasured, not feared, where the strong protect the weak instead of destroying them. The Velani music reached its crescendo, filling the ruined chamber with sounds of beauty and loss. As the final notes faded, Tai-Ho delivered humanity's final judgment. The verdict of humanity is this: genocide is not acceptable. Tyranny is not sustainable. Fear is not stronger than hope. We will remember the Velani people forever, and we will ensure that their fate never befalls another species. The broadcast ended, leaving the galaxy in silence as billions of beings processed what they had heard. The Galactic Council was truly gone. The age of human influence had begun. But unlike previous transitions of power, this one came with a promise of justice rather than conquest. As Tai-Ho walked out of the ruined chamber, he paused to look back at the destruction one final time. Soon this place would be transformed into a garden where beings from across the galaxy could gather in peace. The Council's legacy of fear would be replaced by humanity's promise of hope. Commander Wu Jin's final words echoed in his memory. Remember us through our songs. Today, humanity had proven that some promises were worth keeping, no matter the cost. In the years that followed, the galaxy would indeed remember the Velani through their songs, but they would also remember them through the justice that their deaths had inspired, and through the new age of peace that had been built upon the foundation of their sacrifice. The memorial crystal in Dr. Haywan's hands continued to glow,